doing a flock community contest. It does have a smaller rake than some of the other contests, and to be quite honest, your boy ain't made of money. I do a lot of drafts non-recorded, non-streamed, as well as the ones that I do on stream and recorded as videos like this. So, just for my own sake, I do have to occasionally rein it in a little bit. A $10 one instead of a $20 or $25 one can help the kid out a little bit. 7 spot, I mean, you've seen me here time and time again. People are getting scared off of Puka, so I don't really have to do that at 7 anymore. We'll use it to take advantage of some other stuff. McCaffrey honestly does worry me a fair bit, but in a smaller entry fee, smaller contest too, I believe. Only 5K entrance. I'm going to take the risk on McCaffrey here. To be honest, though, we won't have to. I would prefer... I just prefer Jefferson. Admittedly, part of the reason I do want to take McCaffrey is because I never take him. Back when Puka was up at 7-8, I was taking him. You're not going to see me doing it here just because I don't really have to. If I get in the 10 or 11 spot, that's where I'll get the ADP on Puka. Take the discount rather than buying above it. Jefferson has similar concerns. That's why 2 premier players like them are going at 7 and 8. For Jefferson, it's because people are worried about the quarterback play. Camp reports haven't been super positive for McCarthy, but they weren't positive for Jamar Chase after, he came out from missing a year of college. People claim that he couldn't catch a ball. Obviously, Jamar Chase was a much better prospect than J.J. McCarthy. But given how well KOC has been at, getting any quarterback fantasy relevant, I'm still maintaining some hope. And to be fair, Jefferson, even with the worst of quarterback play, has been very fantasy relevant. So shouldn't be too worried about that by any means. With this flock community contest, it is structured essentially like BBM. You're going to be hyper-focused on 17. I honestly don't know the payout structure off the top of my head too well. I'm just going to take A.J. Brown. Injury is slightly concerning. The problem with A.J. Brown isn't necessarily his current injury. It's the re-aggravation risk into the season. He should be able to bounce back fairly quick from the current injury, but there's some concern just given his history that it might re-aggravate at some point during the season. To be fair, I'm not going to buy too much into that. Granted, if this were a sprint, maybe you see me go Lad, just because I believe, let me double check this here. Yeah, Minnesota and the Chargers both play Dallas over their 3-game stretch. So potentially Lad's better there. I mean, we're seeing Lad fall a bit here. Lad also dealing with his own injury. I haven't delved too much into it. I mean, by this, we can already see he's back in practice. I think the bigger reason for Lad falling is the Rashawn Slater injury. I will take Lad at 31 if you are going to let me do that. The Rashawn Slater injury is, massive. I saw a tweet that it basically was the difference. I'm going to butcher this, so I'm not even going to try to quote the teams. But, he brings a much... he significantly improves their expected yardage per play. So without him, they're facing an uphill battle. Here, we do have a bit of a question, bit of a conundrum. I think I'm just going to go Devontae. Rarely do I take Devontae after not taking Puka, so we will get a little bit of exposure to that. You might say, why not take Marvin Harrison? And the truth is, because in that spot, I am almost always taking Marvin Harrison. I got to switch it up just a little bit. It's really tough for me to pick Garrett Wilson, even though he should be a target hog. I worry that the Jets offense is not going to throw the ball much at all. JSN may be a play, but to be honest, I get into the same habit. Every time I take JSN, I immediately go into Tet. That's not necessarily a reason to avoid JSN himself, but just something to consider in these drafts, especially smaller entry ones. Try to push yourself out of what your usual habits are. This is certainly not a start I've ever done because it doesn't stack up abundantly well, but we can work minis into it much later fairly easily with all of these teams. I think pure player, I prefer Worthy and Pickens to JMO, but after getting Jay Jettas at the 7 spot, I feel like you just go JMO here. Let's get an immediate stack for that game. We're behind at running back a slight bit, but this board currently does scope out to give us a couple of options at this next spot. Admittedly, not any that I abundantly love, but they are options nonetheless. I could not tell you why Xavier Worthy just fell to 51. Good on that guy for taking him. At this 55 pick, I expect I'm just going to go Hubbard. I don't love him, but this is an offense that could potentially improve. Even if they're a middle-of-the-road offense, Hubbard scopes out to be a fairly high-volume back. I mean, if you're getting an average offense, high-volume running back in round 5, that feels pretty good, especially when we're running low on options. Hurts here with the Brown stack, though, is admittedly the ceiling play that I'm going to have to do. I didn't even notice that until we got up to the pick that he was falling. Yeah, after taking A.J. Brown, I'm just going to take Jalen Hurts here. It really forces us now. We're going to have to take some Bills later with our hefty wide receiver room. That makes things a little bit difficult. We'll probably have to lean on the later ones rather than taking Shakir or Coleman like I usually would. Now definitely behind at running back for most of these. But I do like Swift a fair bit. He'll be the main pick there. And then Aaron Jones later could work out well if we then take J.J. McCarthy as our second quarterback, close out at 2 quarterbacks for this roster. I would have certainly preferred to take DeAndre Swift. I don't really want to take Caleb Johnson here. I don't want to reach on Montgomery either. So we're just going to buy in to another ADP value, take Hunter, and basically really have to scrape at running back for most of this draft. I expect this will ultimately have to be like a 6 running back team. We can see Judkins we can maybe try and snipe if we need some desperate value. Yeah, we're going to be struggling at running back. I really hope that we can get Montgomery at our next pick, but it's not a guarantee. All right, we get Aaron Jones here right after someone took Jordan Mason. Would have obviously preferred Montgomery or Caleb Johnson. Got close there, didn't get it. After taking Aaron Jones, though, he does scope out to be the more receiving back comparative to Jordan Mason being the short yardage goal line back. Potentially, goal line will be interesting to see how exactly they split those carries. But since Aaron Jones is going to be the receiving back, we definitely are going to be looking towards McCarthy later. Certainly want to keep building out this running back room, but we are going to be running into some difficult spots here with how running back heavy this draft has been from other teams. Was going to say, even with our running back need, Addison would have been a must-take at pick 87-90, that far after ADP. I have a friend, Robbie G, who's been a big Addison fan. He believes that without the suspension, Addison's much higher up on this board, and given that you should be playing for ceiling in a lot of these contests, he believes that Addison, with only 3 games out, is a fairly good play. Considering that we wanted to work into a Minnesota stack, Addison would have been like a must-take at this pick 90 with the ADP value and the stacking intention. Instead, we will just take Tyrone Tracy. I do think the Cam Scadaboo injury, which does scope out to be, a very high re-aggravation risk in season, gives Tracy the opportunity to capture a lot of volume in the backfield again this year, similar to what he did last year. And last year he was pretty good, even in a quite poor offense. We really just need some volume at running back right now. Given how thin the rest of the draft is going to be, Tyrone Tracy, especially now with that Scadaboo injury, gives us that volume. We will at least get Dobbins or ETN here. I really am not too hard stance on either one of them. I do think there's a higher likelihood of Dobbins beating out RJ Harvey than there is ETN beating out both the other backs in his backfield. Granted, ETN does have the benefit of being likely receiving a higher target share than Dobbins, but I am going to go Dobbins here. I've drafted my fair share of RJ Harvey, particularly because I just believe Sean Payton goes out and gets the guys that he thinks are going to fit well into his system. We saw it last year with Bo Nix at what people believe to be a reach. It ended up being perfect for the system that Payton wants to run. RJ Harvey was a much more significant reach in this year's draft than Bo Nixon was last year. So I have to assume that Payton sees something in him that the rest of us don't. That said, Sean Payton is not God. And J.K. Dobbins showed last year that he still has some juice. Even as a, change of pace 2, Dobbins can break off a couple runs, give us some value. And maybe, just maybe, we can get ETN at this next pick 6 away. With ETN off the board, I think we'll just go McCarthy here. I've already talked why I'm not too in love with Scadaboo with that injury. While I do love Colston Loveland, I don't really think he fits too well into this team. Ceiling-wise, I'm probably just going to go with some later tight ends, specifically Kincaid and Pitts to get a little bit of game stacking. And we just are set now at our quarterback spot here. Losing both Ray Davis and Dalton Kincaid at this pick is tough. We'll just go Stevenson to keep building out this running back room. I think Stevenson will, I've said it a lot of times before, I think Stevenson's still going to have a fair share of volume, at least this year in this Patriots offense. David Njoku has been a tight end that I've liked. You see him go off the board right here. If we'd gotten Caleb Johnson earlier in the draft over one of these other running backs, I would have liked taking Njoku there a lot more. Cleveland's going to throw the ball a ton, and Njoku should still be getting his more than fair share of targets, even with the presence of Harold Fannin Jr. And I didn't even catch it when it happened. Judkins did go off the board at 98. I mean, maybe you're getting like 8 spots of ADP value now compared to the season, but like his ADP isn't going to go past or above 90 before he signs a contract. So again, not too worried about that. We will take Pitts here, get our first tight end. These three top running backs are fairly intriguing. I do think Sampson still has a ton of value, especially once you see him drop a bit more in ADP. He's still going to be a fine pick. There's no guarantee that, Judkins can immediately beat out Sampson. Sampson was a prospect that a fair number of people liked. If Judkins is slow to start because of all the camp that he's missed, Sampson could earn a larger role than people expect, even with Judkins returning. Tootin's a great pick at that ADP where he just went. I admittedly am more hesitant on Tootin than some other people. I more than believe that they drafted him to be a successor, not the incumbent for this season, but in this 140, 150 range, the ADP to ceiling value is certainly there. Given that we saw Hollywood go off the board for a mini with Dobbins, I think we just continue to build out this running back room because we certainly need it. Rashad White is my preferred back of these three, but with no Miami to get there, we probably do just have to go Algier. I think, Algier does certainly have his own role. I think Rashad White's role is a little bit larger because of the receiving workload that he does get. Even in half-point PPR, that does matter a lot. With Eckler off the board, I've talked about Eckler before. I believe he's someone that can get you to the dance, not win you the dance, but getting to the dance is very valuable. I think the highest ceiling of these tight ends is Isaiah Likely. Even with his expected absence, I believe that the Baltimore offense is the most high-scoring of the three of Washington, New England, and Baltimore. I don't know why the draft is freezing there that hard. But Washington obviously has its value, but Ertz is an aging tight end. He proved that he can still do it last year, but I'd rather bet on the up-and-comer in Likely, who week one last year just dominated. Even with the injury, I do think Likely is the future at tight end for the Ravens. It seems more and more like they aren't going to keep Andrews around long-term. I still think this year Andrews is top dog, but Likely's going to get his fair share of value, and since I already know that I'm going 3 tight end, we can find another tight end to hopefully give us the floor that we need in the weeks where Likely's going to be out. All right, with these final 4 picks, we know we're going to go 1 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 more tight end. If we're looking at like Dante Thornton and Alec Pierce, I honestly prefer Alec Pierce, but I'm going to take the ADP value on Thornton. Realistically, they're going to have similar roles. There's a slight chance that the Vegas offense, I do expect the Vegas offense will be better than Pierce, so that should be your indicator in and of itself. But I do think Thornton will scope out to be a much more field stretcher, inconsistent target share player than I think people are giving him his rightful due. I think people are overestimating what it means for him to be starting given the role that he scopes out to have. And admittedly, I'm aware of the mass amount of bye week 8 issues that we have. The reality is while bye weeks are important to note, you can more than outscore the bye week 8 deficit that we'll have here throughout the rest of the season, especially knowing that we're going to get 1 more wide receiver here. Hopefully it is Alec Pierce, and then we'll close out with a running back and a tight end of our choice. We take Pierce, get that nice little mini with Hunter, and obviously Thornton does have the mini with Tyrone Tracy, which is why those 2 players were queued up for us. If we manage to get Woody Marks at the next pick, even better. If not, we'll just take Giddens as a handcuff along with one of these tight ends. Admittedly, tight ends in this range I'm not too concerned about. Gesicki is the only one that has a little bit of complications for us since he also may be not there week 1. Hamstring injuries are always tough. I really have not looked into yet what the recent reports have been about Gesicki's injury. I really did consider how I feel about Gesicki versus Schultz. The reality is their end-of-season point differential won't be too different, and we know that Schultz will be healthy to start the year, hopefully. Barring no catastrophic injury to either of them in the coming weeks before the season. And we will close this draft out with a premium handcuff in DJ Giddens, get a little bit more stacking at Travis Hunter. It's not the biggest thing, but it is a thing for us, and he is one of the only handcuffs here left that I feel like has clear-cut RB2. He's the second one. He will be the next man up. Rashard Smith has a little bit of upside, and I do always like Justice Hill a fair bit. Ollie Gordon, I think, is sneaky as well, but it will be Giddens to close this draft out. Very much appreciate you tuning in. I will be back again tomorrow. As always, a little bit of a side note, I did get stung by wasps today, so show me some respect. Comment down below wasp survivor for me if you made it this far into the video, because despite getting stabbed by 2 wasps, I made it back. I did this draft, and hopefully you believe that it's a good draft. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace out. Appreciate you very much. Have a good one. Draft well. Stay safe. Peace!